NASA astronauts Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, who spent 9 months on the ISS after their Boeing Starliner spacecraft was deemed unsafe to return in, will give a press conference today. And a Bible once owned by O.J. Simpson sold for over $80,000 at auction. The late Robert Kardashian Sr. gave Simpson the Living Bible in the 90s. Kim Kardashian tried to buy it, but the Simpson family declined. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The New Orleans Teacher Job Board is hosting a citywide career fair for current and future educators. Explore open school positions, teacher certification pathways, and career growth opportunities. The career fair will take place this Saturday, April 5th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. at Walter L. Cohen High School. Visit newschoolsforneworleans.org for more information and registration.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Sawai. My super producer, Nara Sanders, is in the building as well. Listen, I want to say thank you to y'all because y'all did that. And if you don't know that I'm referring to, I'm talking about the 4 failed proposed constitutional amendments by the governor of this state. I actually could not sleep after the after the results came in. I was up the entire night into the next morning. I could not sleep. I sent congratulatory texts to some of our local and state leaders because I just knew everybody was all hands on deck trying to make certain that we informed the voter populace, and we tried to do our best right here on WBOK to talk about these amendments each and every day. And now the question is, and I posed this question on my social media, is it truly voter apathy or is it just not an intentional push to educate the voter populace? Because what I saw was education going on all around this state, folk going from different parishes to talk about the impact of these proposed constitutional amendments. I moderated several panels. I sat in rooms where this was being discussed. And so for me, it may not be what we thought it was the whole time. Some of the time, most of the time, folk are just unaware of what is even on the ballot. And I think a lot of the times it's intentional by the person trying to slide things to rewrite our Constitution or to change laws and policy. It's what they do. Everything that this governor did was to circumvent the voter populace from being educated about what we were expected to vote on. Even wanting it to be on a March ballot was strategic, right? Even lying, flat out lying about what the amendments will give us should it pass. He even incorporated a rapper who we know has an interest in trying to push proposed constitutional amendment number 2 because he has some sort of studio in the Shreveport area. And I'm talking about 50 Cent. Because I don't know what nobody else did, but I know I was sending messages like, what? You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. If you read, and I doubt that he read it because one of the false talking points that he had was it was about a permanent pay raise for teachers. It was never about being a permanent pay raise for teachers. And I believe out of his own mouth, we had evidence that he also believed that we just weren't going to show up. let's not forget the conversation he was having with the Speaker of the House, and they were communicating about what they thought the turnout would be. And he initially said about 12%, and then he said no more than 18%. Well, they shattered both of those numbers, the state did when they went out to vote. And so I just want to say congratulations to every voter, every grassroots organization, the people over at Vote, the people over at the Power Coalition. I know Gary Chambers assisted the Power Coalition going from different parishes, talking about it, specifically in the parishes that were targeted, right? We know Kettle Parish was targeted. We know East Baton Rouge was targeted. And so just to see the elected officials and community organizers in those 3 specific parishes, including New Orleans, to see them come together and push back against this, I think it tells us something. And I know it told the governor something. You're going to get your hands up off our people, especially when you're pushing policy that is going to do nothing but poison the very communities that you're supposed to represent. So that's what it told him, right? There was even a court case where their side of it, they won it because the proposed constitutional amendments were listed on the ballot. And so all of that, they weren't fighting against that court case because they thought they were going to lose. They were fighting against it because they believed they were going to win. So they wanted it to appear on the ballot with the language as it was. And I'm just so excited. I'm extremely excited. I can't wait to hear from the WBOK listening audience. I'm going to jump in the chat to see what y'all are talking about. But if you want to join the conversation, the number is 504-582-9422. What are your thoughts? After seeing this collective effort to push education as it relates to the proposed constitutional amendments, after seeing that, do you still believe that this is merely about voter apathy, or do you now believe that we're just not doing enough to educate folk when these elections are happening, what's on the ballot, what are the implications? You had legislatures out in the communities talking about this. That is always what we needed, because folk needed to hear from the folk in the room. What does this mean for us? What does it mean for my tax dollars? What does it mean for my community? What does it mean for my children? What does it mean for the judicial system? Those are the questions, and we got straight answers. It wasn't 115 pages of nonsense slid into 91 words. No, they took those 91 words and they expanded it, and they told us the implications. Don't believe the hype. Because the people pushing it wanted to frame it as if it was going to be some sort of help to the community. Let's talk about the amendment where it was, they led with, this is going to make sure we hold out-of-state lawyers accountable. That sounds like something you would want to do, doesn't it? It absolutely sounds like something you would want to do. But then you have to ask yourself, when has the system ever done anything for the marginalized group of people? That's the first question you should ask. When have they ever set out and said, let's do this for the poor, right? Let's do this for the people who need it the most. Nope. It's never that way. It's never that way. So here is the question again, if you didn't hear it. We hear all the time about folks saying there's just an apathy there. Folk are just disgusted about always showing up and never getting any return on their investment. So is it about that? Or do you now see that when we collectively come together, legislators, grassroots organizations, all of these different entities who are supposed to be pushing back against bad policy, when you see those people come together, look at the outcome that you get. And also, let's be very clear. We also didn't have to compete with a Bayou Classic, a Saints game, a festival. So now you understand the implications of putting an election day on those sorts of activities, because they want to distract us. They want to. See, they didn't distract us this time because he felt like being on a March ballot was distraction enough. The lie detector determined that's a lie. Good morning, Miss Alicia. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning, and thank you, Doc. I want to give you your congratulations as well. because you were hard at it. Every day you talked about those amendments. Every day you gave us, the audience and the people, all the information that we needed to have. And I want to thank the legislators as well. I want to thank the grassroots people. Most especially, I want to thank my comrades at NOFE, because we always try to stay on top of it. We appreciate all that you do when you come and moderate for us. And I think this is a great segue to our meeting tonight, talking about voting. You're going to be moderating for us, and our guest is going to be the Honorable Darren Lombard, Clerk of Court. He's going to be talking everything about elections and also employment opportunities with his office when it comes to the elections. And I just want to say I was screaming and hollering like you, and I want to say thank you, because you were a strong part of getting that information out. And I'm so happy our people went to vote. I'm so happy our people were pushed to vote, and it shows what all we can do when we get together and we vote right. Thanks, Doc.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for calling, Miss Alicia. Have a blessed one. Listen, I am so excited because even when it all was said and done, all the numbers came out, Orleans Parish led the pack. And so that also tells you what your collective power right here is. It tells you that you can protect this city when you want to. That's what it tells you. It sent a very strong message to the governor. Extremely strong. So strong that let me tell you what he said. This is what he said. I mean, you really can't make this up, because I guess he forgot this is the same state that voted him into the governor's mansion. He said, although we are disappointed in tonight's results, we do not see this as a failure. We realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that is conditioned for failure. That is what he said. A state that is conditioned for failure. So I'm going to just put my little thinking cap on, and I'm going to use his comment. I'm going to ask him, or anybody from his camp who's listening, because we know y'all are listening. If the state is conditioned for failure and the state elected you, does that make you a failure? I just have questions that need answers. Because what you have to remember is more people came out to push back against those proposed constitutional amendments than that put you in the governor's mansion. So what I would tell you is a lack of education elected you. People just they were not well informed. They did not know that we were going to put a MAGA-loving, MAGA flag-waving, MAGA maniac into the governor's mansion. They didn't know. Oh, but they know now, because some of them same folk that voted for you voted against those proposed constitutional amendments, because, see, it wasn't clear enough for them when you were running for office. It's clear enough now, because everything is harder. Everything is harder, and it's affecting their actual families and their actual communities, and now they feel just like they felt when they voted for Trump. That's how they felt. And you didn't do yourself no favors going up there hobnobbing and elbow rubbing with the president, who is now imploding every facet of government. You don't think the folks that initially voted for you have a problem with that? I bet you those numbers tell you otherwise. Because if you look at the state map, it's lime green all over, except for a few pockets who voted for this foolishness, but it wasn't enough to carry it. Caddo Parish showed out. That's one of the parishes you specifically targeted. Orleans Parish showed out. You specifically targeted us. And East Baton Rouge showed out. You specifically targeted us. So what it tells me is when you specifically target people and we specifically target them with education, we could change the trajectory of everything around here. And now you won't notice. Get your hands off our people, get your hands off our community, and you best get your hands off our children. Because, see, that was the amendment that I had a huge problem with. And the people showed up and they let you know what the business is, sir. What you talk about, Pop? Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Dr. Wise, peace and blessings to you.
Absolutely.
You already know I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I'm not mad with those or angry or trying to put them down. But I've been preaching the vote, hold the people to the feet to the fire, and learn about, look what happened to those amendments. And if I'm right, Dr. Wise, this was all over the state, right?
Yes, statewide.
Man, boy, isn't that wonderful?
It's wonderful.
Yes, indeed. But that's the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
I've been saying to people, oh well, you can vote for this, and they're gonna do what they want, and all that kind of foolishness, man. I just got tired of listening to voting for a third party, and we on the Titanic, and the ship is sinking to the bottom of the sea. And we talking that kind of stuff. Well, they're going to do what they want, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I just was excited, Dr. Wise. And thanks for people like you and Alicia Plummer and a lot, I can't call all of them names. So thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
You have a blessed day.
Same here, Pop. Good morning, Ms. Jones. Welcome to the Good
Yes,
Morning Show.
Good morning to everybody, and especially to you. I can't say enough but piggyback what Alicia Plummer said, what Pop is saying. Also, we really fought hard at coming together, and we could continue that. Let it be ongoing, not just for this, but for everything else too pertaining to it. Letting people know that they could early vote, emphasize it every week, that they could get the absentee vote for various reasons like physical handicap and what have you, and that people who are unable to really do for themselves, that they're allowed to have somebody to accompany them in the voting booth, because some people back off of that too. But this is a huge victory, a message to that governor. And I'm going to say this, when Trump gets through with him, he's going to find out differently.
Yeah.
He's going to find out differently. But to our people, hats off, and like those long amendments, like to see, you look, anybody who's mastered with the English language would know that something is wrong, because those series don't even go together. What does that have to do with the cost of the price of tea in China for what size shoe you should wear? We're going to go over it grammatically, list it, and so that it'll be much clearer. It'll be the same thing anytime you do something like that again. Just list them one by one. And I noticed, like, when they put the comma, I put a little magnifying glass on it. It's so light. And it's like run-in. The comma's supposed to be a yield stop sign. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And people don't see it. It's printed so lightly. And people get disgusted and just scared. So that's why we got to do studying before time. When they come up with those amendments like that, don't just wait until the last minute. I did it when I became a younger voter years ago. Didn't realize it. And I got into the booth, and I said, oh, my goodness, this is so much. One time that happened. From that point on, I said, never again. Take time, read it, discuss it with people, listen to people like yourself. Get an understanding from each other. We don't have to be that disagreeable that we fight each other's, bite each other's head, but just to get an understanding and go. Always check on your voting status. Recruit people. Do the same thing we did. Go viral all the time. Don't let it end. Don't stop the music. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Listen, it is refreshing. I feel energized. I feel. Listen, I just feel good. I really do, because I was afraid, and I'm going to say it here. I was afraid of what the rest of the state was going to do. But when you realize that this was an attack also on the churches as well and the clergy, and they came together collectively, no matter what their political views were, they didn't want that amendment number 2 to pass, because it was about losing valuable property. The only thing that would qualify for the tax exemption would have been the sanctuaries. But we know churches have multiple properties. They have community buildings where they do a lot of community work in. They have all different sorts of property attached to their sanctuaries. And I think that's what also caught the eye of the clergy and made them come together in a collective effort to push back against the amendment. But I think it's also important to know that he lost this race even in his home state. his home parish. We're gonna keep talking about it right here. Y'all stay with us. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Late nights are made for chillin', and you can do just that every Sunday night at 10 p.m. as DJ Wick brings you The Love Zone. It's the perfect way to top off your weekend with your favorite old and new school ballads. So sit back, relax, and let DJ Wick take you to the Love Zone on WBOK 1230 AM and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
Good Monday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. The man facing charges in a deadly dog attack is set to appear in court later today. Chad Bridges was arrested and charged with negligent homicide after 81-year-old Barbara Stewart was reportedly attacked and killed by Bridges' dog. Court records showed the same dog escaped through Bridges' fence and attacked a 15-year-old girl. The dog was surrendered to the LASPCA to be euthanized. Bridges' other 2 dogs were taken for a 10-day bite quarantine hold. A hearing is scheduled for today at 3 p.m. It was a shocking turnout over the weekend as voters went to the polls to vote on 4 amendments and local races. And in a surprising move, people overwhelmingly voted against all 4 constitutional amendments pushed by Governor Jeff Landry. The statewide election turnout was 21%, which is nearly double the voter turnout rate of 11% during the December 2024 election. Turnout was also higher in Democratic parishes. The only woman on death row in Louisiana is set to be in court this morning. Antoinette Frank, a former New Orleans police officer, is convicted of killing her partner, Officer Ronald Williams, and 2 restaurant owners during a robbery in New Orleans East back in 1995. Now, it's unclear what she will be in court for this morning. But according to Attorney General Liz Murrill, we know that an execution date could soon be scheduled for Frank. And it's the end of the road for LSU's women's basketball team as they fall to UCLA in the Elite Eight. The Bruins advanced to the women's Final Four for the first time in the program's history. LSU's Anissa Morrow overcame a broken nose injury in the game to finish with 15 points. She's also projected to be a top 10 pick in the upcoming WNBA draft. For head coach Kim Mulkey, it was the 13th time in her career that she led a team to the NCAA Elite Eight. I'm Daryl Forges. That's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank. There's freedom here.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning and welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Y'all say hello to my super producer, Nara Sanders. He's also in the building this morning. And if you're just joining the show, we are talking about the failed proposed constitutional amendments that were being pushed by the governor. And the voters of this state overwhelmingly gave him their answer. And it was a resounding no to all 4. And I just wanted to congratulate every grassroots organization, every policy-making body who came together, every legislator, every elected official who came together to bring education to the people about these 4 proposed constitutional amendments. But right before we went to break, I was telling you about the governor's home parish, St. Martin. They overwhelmingly rejected the 4 proposed constitutional amendments. I think what's also telling is there's a map out there that's it's color coded, and it's telling you how every parish in the state voted. And I think it's very telling. I looked at the map and I saw where Iberia Parish, they voted no to every amendment except Amendment number 3, which was slated to incarcerate more juveniles and youth and sentence them to adult prisons based on discretionary crimes. They were going to strip the Constitution of the 16 crimes that were already listed that would warrant a child being tried as an adult. And so to see them vote no on 1, 2, and 4, but they voted yes on 3, it had my brain working. So I went to go look at what is happening in terms of crime in Iberia Parish. And I see some things that they're talking about, like their juvenile facilities are overcrowded and there's not many places for the kids to go when they commit crimes. But I still do not think that the remedy for that is to start to think about putting them in adult prisons, because we do see that there's this huge juvenile facility that the governor has just invested nearly $40 million into, so that they can have some facilities that can house the kids who are alleged to have committed these offenses. I also see where an 11-year-old girl was sentenced to 7 years in juvenile detention about 10 months ago in connection with the murder. She was 11 years old at the time, and she was, my God, I'm reading and talking to you at the same time. And it says that an 11-year-old girl was sentenced to 7 years in juvenile detention with 3.5 years suspended in connection with the murder of Cameron Bedsole on November 14th. The girl was originally charged with murder in connection with the incident, but those charges were dropped. She pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice in April. Wait, what? In the sentence handed down by 16th Judicial District Court Judge Roger Hamilton, she will spend 3.5 years in the custody of the Office of Juvenile Justice and the remainder of the 7 years on probation. She will also be required to take firearm safety classes. The community must ask the question, why was it that an 11-year-old child was in that situation? What was the relationship between the 2 children and this grown adult? I'm so confused. It says in March, the state dropped the murder charge against the child for her involvement in the November slaying of Bedsole. She then pled guilty to obstruction of justice, which as a juvenile would have kept the child in custody up to when she turns 18. During the child's probation, she is authorized to go through school, community service, rehab, and gun safety training. Multiple advocacy groups have followed the child through the process and are not satisfied with the sentencing and are left with questions. The group's president said they will continue to be by her side and fight for what they say was an unjust ruling for an 11-year-old girl. Who are you punishing, her or her family, who the only person that seems like they're suffering in this situation is her? The mother of the child, who was charged for her involvement in the murder, has a trial scheduled for July 15th. Now, I read the article, but I don't really see what the culpability of this child was. They didn't say that she actually committed the murder because that charge was dropped. And they dropped that charge, but they charged her with obstruction of justice and sentenced her to 7 years, but suspended 3.5. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. But what I do know is over incarcerating folk has never been the remedy to crime, especially not in the state of Louisiana anyway. And so, I mean, we lead in incarceration, and we're at the bottom in terms of anything that is supposed to deter you from committing crime, be it education, be it housing, be it healthcare. We at the bottom. So I would think that the folk in decision-making capacities would recognize that incarceration is not the magic bullet that you think it is. And I would venture on to say that if you actually rehab the programs that are supposed to be a deterrent to crime, we would probably see a decrease in crime as a whole, not just juvenile crime. Not just juvenile crime. And so as long as we continue to hustle backwards, thinking that we're going to just start locking people up on the front end and we're going to hopefully rehab them in the worst conditions, we hustle backwards. And that's why we always end up at the bottom in terms of things that affect your quality of living. Because they don't want you to live with any real quality. They just that's the game plan for them. But I see light at the end of the tunnel, and I see a way forward when it comes to education. And education before we normally we're reactionary. We were very proactive this time. I know right here on this station, we talked about it for months, every single day, encouraging folks to vote, encouraging folks to bring somebody to the polls, encouraging people to read for themselves what these amendments will give you if you decide to support them or to reject them. And when you look at the map that tells you how everybody voted, the state overwhelmingly decided that this was not good for the state. And so when you look at the map, the lime green, when you look at it, those are the parishes that voted no to all four. When you look at the blue, that is the parish, Iberia, that voted no to 3 and yes to Amendment 3. They voted no to 3 of the amendments, 1, 2, and 4, but they voted yes to Amendment 3. When you see the pink area, that is, they voted yes to 1, 2, and 4, and they voted no to 3, and that is St. Tammany Parish. So they said no to locking kids up as young as 14 in adult prisons, but they said yes to 1, 2, and 4, which dealt with the court system and the taxation, and it dealt with the judicial process. And then when you see that burgundy, which is Livingston Parish, they said yes to all 4. Livingston, LaSalle, Grant, W.E. Carroll, Vernon, Sabine, DeSoto, Jeff Davis, Acadia, Vermilion, and Cameron. Those are the parishes that voted yes to all 4. So I want to shout out the rest of the state. And I guess lime green is the color of the day because the state overwhelmingly came together and said no to this. And I want to highlight every single chance I get. I want to highlight what the governor actually said, because I think it's important for you to know what he thinks about you. And I'm going to say it again. I said it at the top of the hour. I'll say it again. He said, although we are disappointed in tonight's results, we do not see this as a failure. We realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that is conditioned for failure. So that's what he said. Somebody might need to put that on some billboards and posters and mailers and yard signs, so you could be constantly reminded of what he thinks about you every time he wants your vote for something. That's what he thinks about you. We need to put that on everything. The way we put say no to all 4 on everything, that's the next quote that needs to go on everything. So every time he goes to the legislature asking to rewrite something or trying to trick us into voting for something, you just need to be reminded of what he thinks about you. That's all. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Good morning, Ken. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning, Dr. Wyatt.
How you doing?
You're doing well. Let's start with the young lady. Yes. The obstruction charge was simply because she did not tell on Mommy or whoever or whatever she saw and she knew. She's a juvenile. She's 11 years old. It's freaking insane. Yeah. You know, just outright cruel and evil. First of all, when you talk about incarceration, they don't see black people as human beings or other if you're not, other than white. You're not human. You know, and this is racial, but it's just a perspective from which I see working within the system and having defended people for many years. So that's one. The why jail's like the Matrix. You power the machine, you're going to power hey, how you doing? You power the machine with those things. But I got to run, Doc. Mm-hmm. I'll call back, and if y'all will have me back, because I'm in the middle of doing something. I definitely want
to have you come back to talk to us, because you have that mind that we need when we're talking about the implications of this and what does this mean moving forward. So please call back.
Give me 15 minutes. I'll call you back.
Gotcha. Thank you. So listen, I know you guys are listening. I know you have opinions and thoughts. Call and share them 504-582-9422 because the governor also went on to blame especially losing proposed constitutional amendment number 2 on Soros. He said, unfortunately, Soros and far left liberals poured millions into Louisiana with propaganda and outright lies about Amendment 2. Now, we're going to juxtapose that against you went and got a rapper who you probably roped that into giving him access to that studio, because I do know at some point y'all were fighting him to be able to have that studio in the Shreveport area. The state, they were fighting against it. And so then when you think about they were fighting against it and then you see him on commercials pushing Amendment 2, maybe that was the agreement. Help us get Amendment 2 passed and we'll get you to open this studio in Shreveport. Was that the deal that was brokered in the back room? Because if you're going to talk about Soros and far left liberals pouring millions of dollars into Louisiana with propaganda and outright lies, I would have you consult with the people who lose elections year in and year out in this state, because people are putting billions of dollars of dark money into local elected races like the Bessie seat and the school board seat. Like, what is that not concerning to you, Governor? Because why would anybody in New York be concerned about a school board in New Orleans if it wasn't about propaganda and outright lying to the voted populace to get control of our elected bodies? That's what it's about. So how you going to get mad at the game that y'all been winning that for a very long time? That's all y'all do is pour money into elections with propaganda and lies so you can fool the voters and get power by getting a seat. So now you can't be mad at the same thing that probably helped you win the governor's mansion. You can't be mad at it. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's what I would say. Good morning, Rev. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Well, Jeff done lost all four. We said no to Jeff on all four.
Yeah.
But you know what he's saying to you? Y'all so stupid. I'm here to tell y'all what to do. Let me show you why y'all. The man is I would love to call him Weasel because that's what he looked like to me. But what he did, what we did rather, we sent a message not only to Jeff, but to us, that when we come together, when we sit down and look at and really look at what he's doing, now this is his second attempt to change the Constitution of the state of Louisiana. Why is he so hell-bent on this? All right? Why is he really, what's his end game? Where is he really trying to go? Because you're too stupid to follow his leadership. That's why you don't know what's really going on. All right? This man is insulting you on every level he can. And a lot of folks, now I didn't know about the 50-cent piece and all of that. Mm-hmm. But again, you can try to buy whoever you want. But when the people come together and see what what was explained, I had people calling me Saturday morning wanting to know what's happening with these amendments. It is a way for us to come together to talk about what things are really saying. Amendment 2 was full of so many traps and takeaways of constitutional protection for us till it wasn't even funny. That's why I couldn't even understand how people was going to allow this man to come in and start taking more of your sales tax money. This thing was messed up, and he did not anticipate at all that people was going to come together and vote against him. Now that should let us know. That's the real message. What happens when we come together and when we sit down and we say we're going to fight this thing. But again, Jeff lost on all four.
He did.
We said no to all four. So
shout out to the voters in the state.
Huh?
I say shout out to the voters across this state.
That's it. And again, every area came out and said no. And now he had his supporters, but he was not anticipating or expecting the turnout that came out. He wasn't expecting that the people were going to be smart enough to see through his takeover of the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now again, if you look, now I had a person I know that worked for the state he started cuts too. All right. There's a lot of mental health cuts that he's already started. So he's going to follow this mega plan all the way to the hilt. So the state is going to be in for a bigger loss than what people think. Because now Jeff is going to try to show, he has that retaliatory mentality like Trump.
Yes.
He's going to see who he can punish, who he has to get rid of, or who he wants to make an example of. Watch and see what's coming down the pipe. But again, when we stay together, Jeff can't win. Jeff can't win. All right, you have a good morning.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you. Good morning, Eric. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Hey, God bless you. How you doing today?
I'm great, and you?
Good. Yeah, I think nationwide, when you have poor performance of politicians, you're going to have apathy. But when you have such absurd politicians like David Duke, Eddie Rispani, when he ran against Governor Edwards for the governorship a few years ago, and then these absurd amendments that we voted down this past Saturday, I think that will bring about a response from the community, particularly when you educate them regarding just flagrant races like David Duke, Eddie Rispani, and these amendments. I think that will bring the people out. I think they're going to have to get a little more sophisticated in terms of how they try to trick and connive people, because it's sort of obvious what they were trying to do. So I think I was glad for the results. And as a whole, in order to get people out, I think you do still need responsible and proactive politicians who will actually do their job that they were sent there to do. And I think that, in general, would get rid of the voter apathy. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Eric. Listen, I couldn't be more proud of what this state came together to do. And I want to be very clear about what I said at the top of the hour. Some of the same folk who voted the governor into the governor's mansion push back against these proposed constitutional amendments. And everybody has their reason why. What is your why? I'm going to tell you another point that I believe came into play here, because folk don't think that humanity should be at the forefront of decision making. But I don't know if you guys know, but I'm going to tell you right here on WBOK, Louisiana, our state, is a hub for a lot of these individuals who are being detained, being pulled off of university campuses, and they're being held in detention centers right here in the state of Louisiana. The only state that is leading us in that effort is Texas. It's Texas, and that to me is very scary. We are being considered an epicenter for detention. It says immigrant detention in Louisiana surged during Trump's first term at facilities adapted from state prisons and local jails. At the time, a state criminal justice overhaul had reduced the prison population, threatening the economies of small towns that rely on the lockups. I don't know what you heard when I read that, but let me tell you what I heard. It literally said at a time the state criminal justice overhaul had reduced the prison population, threatening the economies of small towns that rely on the lockups. So the officials in rural parishes signed contracts for immigrant detention that guaranteed millions in payouts at local governments. Immigrants and their advocates complained of prolonged detention, mistreatment, and isolation during solitary confinement that sometimes resulted in death. It says Louisiana is the number 2 state today for immigrant detention by ICE after Texas. About 7,000 immigrants are held there in civil detention, according to the government data compiled by Syracuse University's Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse. And as you know, one of the major stories is Mahmoud Khalil. Well, Mahmoud Khalil was transferred from New York to Louisiana, which complicated his legal fight to be released. So now we're harboring folk in our state in favor to the president of the United States. Because, again, the only thing that Mahmoud Khalil is guilty of, and if you want to use the word guilty, is exercising his constitutionally protected First Amendment right. But we have a president that is currently trying to rewrite the Constitution at every turn. Now he's seeking to ensure that he could become the president for a third term, trying to circumvent constitutional barriers. That's exactly what is happening in this state. Louisiana is a mirror to Washington right now. It's a mirror to what is happening on Pennsylvania Avenue. And if we could send a message to the good old governor, we could send a message to the president as well. We will not participate in the dehumanizing of folk for exercising their constitutional rights. Look, I got to go to break and pay a couple bills. But when we come back, we're going to continue to have conversation. But we're going to jump into conversation with Miss Rebecca, the City Park Conservancy President and Chief Executive Officer, as well as Alex Araparu, designer at Concordia. They're going to be here to talk about park planning and the upcoming co-design with the New Orleans public to come up with concepts that people want to see at the parks, y'all. Stay tuned right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Heavy rain and storms expected for the first half of the day. We could see damaging winds, a chance for tornadoes, and heavy rain. After the severe threat is done, expect a much warmer afternoon with highs in the low 80s. Mostly dry in the afternoon, but an isolated shower may pop up. Lows in the 60s for tonight, and we're back into the 80s for Tuesday. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
In recognition of Women's History Month, WBOK 1230 AM presents Her Story Spotlight, honoring extraordinary women whose achievements have redefined what's possible.
This is Monica Pierre joining WBOK as we celebrate Women's History Month. Madam C.J. Walker, making the impossible possible. The daughter of formerly enslaved parents, Sarah Breedlove, who had become known as Madam C.J. Walker, had a tough life in the beginning. Orphaned at 7, married at 14, and widowed at 20. She spent the better part of the next 2 decades laboring as a washerwoman for $150 a week. Then everything changed, and by her death in 1919, Walker managed to overcome astonishing odds. She built her own storied beauty empire from the ground up, even on her own ground, amassed wealth unprecedented among Black women, and devoted her life to philanthropy and social activism. And along the way, she formed friendships with great early 20th century political figures such as Ida B. Wells and Mary McLeod Bethune. Her business model involved both mail-order sales and door-to-door sales. Walker's saleswomen were called Walker agents, and they did more than just sell products. They too became philanthropists. And one agent even said, Walker opened up a trade for hundreds of Black women to make an honest and profitable living where they made as much in 1 week as many made in an entire month. She died at an early age of 51, and in her will, Madam C.J. Walker directed 2/3 of her estate's future net profits to charity organizations. This is Monica Pierre along with WBOK celebrating Women's History Month.
WBOK 1230 AM celebrates Women's History Month and the visionaries and innovators who broke barriers and paved the way for generations to come.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about these failed proposed constitutional amendments across the state. Folk overwhelmingly said no to all four, and we're extremely proud. Like, we want to give the shout out to where they're due, all of the organizations who came together to make this happen. Shout out to Step Up Louisiana. Shout out to Vote. Shout out to the Power Coalition. We want to make certain that folk know that this was a statewide collective effort to make certain that people were not only educated about these amendments, but that there was a way to get them to the polls. So I also want to give a shout out to the CEO of RTA, Miss Lona Hankins, because RTA offered free rides to the polls for the entire day to make certain that if a ride was the reason you could not make it to the polls, they alleviated that for you. So shout out to everybody who did their part to make certain that folk not only were informed, but that they were able to get there. And so that is the type of collective effort that we need when it comes down to anything that is being forced upon us when we know it doesn't feel right. It's not going to get us the outcomes that the folk are selling us. We know it's not right. And so anytime that you have an effort to misinform you or to try to rush you to make a decision, you ought to step back and ask yourself why. If it's so good for me, why are you taking a 115-page document and condensing it to 91 words, but you're leaving out the most important parts? Because you cannot put everything into the 91 words. But that's also another hurdle to an informed voter populace, right? When I moderated the last Step Up panel, one of the concerns, which has always been a concern, we've talked about it right here on WBOK, but the language that is put on these ballot measures, I don't understand why it has to be so convoluted, it has to be so cumbersome that folk can't determine what is being asked of them. It needs to be in plain language. It needs to be simplified. It needs to be direct and concise. But to have legalese and to have jargon on there that folk can't, if you read it and you're like, wait, what? That tells you that it's another hurdle that could be fixed. Because if it's really about informing us, if it's really about making certain that we understand what we're doing, then the language will reflect that. It will reflect that. It should be as simple as ordering you a number 2 from McDonald's. You see the picture, you see the words, you see what's in it, and you can order it. But if you start putting the words in like French cuisine language, nobody's going to understand what they're purchasing. We're going to have to go to Google Translate and tell us, wait, what does this mean? So for me, if we did this, we could do a whole lot more to make certain that systems work for its people on all fronts. And it should not be contingent upon how much money you make or what area of the city you live in or who your mama is connected to. It shouldn't matter. Good government represents the will of its people. And that means poor people. That means folk who don't dress as nice as you, who can't go to the private country clubs that you go to, whose children are not in the finer schools. It means all people. All people. And it's just that simple. And if the government is not good for the least of its people, then it's going to deteriorate from the inside out. That is what's going to happen. That's why you spinning around in a circle trying to figure out how to solve crime. When the answer to the solving of the crime is right in front of you, but you don't want to give the people good systems like schools and healthcare. You don't want to do that because that would mean wealthy folk having to pay their fair share. And so that's why you continue to chase your tail pretending like you're looking for a solution to crime. You're not. You're not, and the reason you're not is because you're isolated from the said crime that you're trying to pretend is saturating communities so bad that folks can't do what's right the reason why folks can't do what's right is because they're living under consistent degradation in their community, and you get to go hide out in your little pocket of the city and pretend like the city ain't burning. But that goes to the point of why one of these proposed constitutional amendments failed, and I'm talking about amendment number 2. Because if you have been listening for the months that we've been talking about this, there was a pastor that was in full support of this amendment number 2, and so he realized that tax cuts was going to affect his institution. And when he realized, hold on, so wait, only the sanctuary is protected, but I have multiple buildings, then it was like, wait a minute here. What is this really about? And then that's when it became a collective effort on the part of the churches to stand against this. But I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Because what it tells me is stuff has to personally affect us. Majority of us, some of us, many of us, for us to actually put a real lens on it to say, wait, what's happening here? Because if it wasn't for informing that pastor that, look, you're pushing something that is going to ultimately hurt your institution. And by default, every other institution that has more than a sanctuary and it's under its charge. I'm not mad at it, because maybe stuff has to start feeling personal to you for you to care about the rest of the folk. Because, see, I believe when crime personally starts to affect these people who are pushing this nonsense, when it personally affects them, then they're going to fix the systems that perpetuate crime. They're not going to put Band-Aids on bullet wounds anymore. They're going to actually invest in systems that will have actual outcomes in terms of crime. If you want to fix the crime, fix the schools. It's my opinion. Because if you want to fix healthcare, fix the schools. I want you to show me an area where the people are healthy and crime is high. I want you to show me an area where the people are healthy and the education system is poor. Show it to me. Show it to me. Because I know, just like every woman knows, and men too, you know this too, Nyrin, when you look good, you feel good, don't you? You walk around and you think good thoughts. You feel energized. So there's a theory called the broken windows theory that answers a lot of your questions as to why crime is high in areas and not in other areas. If you force me to live in a community where everything is degrading around me, everything is in poor condition, then I'm going to have a poor view of myself and my community. And I wouldn't want to do any better than the circumstances that are around me. But the people in decision-making positions have to start to have the real conversation. Do you want to fix the systems, or do you want to continue to perpetuate a fraud on its people? These breaks come real fast. I don't make the rules around here. But when we come out of break, we're going to jump into that conversation I told y'all about with the City Park Conservancy President and Chief Executive Officer, Miss Rebecca. She's here, y'all, and Alex Araparu, designer at Concordia. They're going to be talking about park planning and the upcoming co-design and meeting with the public to ask us what we want to see in our parks right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. A large protest against anti-immigrant policies took place in Dallas, Texas. Thousands joined the Mega March 2025, organized by LULAC, wearing white and carrying American flags to support bipartisan immigration reform. The University of Michigan has decided to close its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion office due to pressure from the Trump administration. The university, which had invested nearly $250 million in DEI initiatives since 2016, will also discontinue its DEI 2.0 strategic plan and STEM-related efforts. Instead, it plans to focus on financial aid, scholarships, and mental health support. The QVC Group is laying off around 900 employees as part of a plan to merge QVC and HSN channels and expand on social media and streaming platforms. The layoffs represent about 5% of the company. And some national parks will require reservations this summer. Check the National Park Service website before planning your trip. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The New Orleans Teacher Job Board is hosting a citywide career fair for current and future educators. Explore open school positions, teacher certification pathways, and career growth opportunities. The career fair will take place this Saturday, April 5th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. at Walter L. Cohen High School. Visit newschoolsforneworleans.org for more information and registration.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning and welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My super producer, Nara Sanders, is behind the glass, pushing all the right buttons. He helps me look good on the other side, y'all. If you're just joining the conversation, you missed a good one. We were talking about the 4 failed proposed constitutional amendments, and we'll get back into it all week because we're very proud of the outcome. But right now, we're going to talk to Miss Rebecca from the City Park Conservancy. She's the president and chief executive officer, and Alex Saraparu, the designer at Concordia. We're going to talk about all things park and what do we expect from our parks. Welcome to the Good Morning Show, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
How y'all doing?
Good this morning.
Listen, happy Women's History Month as well. Yeah. You know, we can't forget about that. I'm no shot against you or whatever, but I mean, this is a celebration of women.
Of course.
So look, tell us about, y'all have an upcoming community meeting to discuss these efforts around our parks. You want to tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So City Park has launched a master plan process. This will inform investment in the park for the future and ensure that the needs of our entire community are met within the park. So we've been planning now for almost 2 years, if you can believe it. We started this in July of 2023. And we have a series of public meetings inviting the community in to give their feedback on the park and help us essentially co-design a plan for the future. Our next meeting is April 9th. We're going to have 2 sessions because our last meeting was so full. We decided to break it up. We have a session at 11:30 and one at 6 at the Pavilion of Two Sisters in City Park.
Well, listen, do not be alarmed if some of the same folk at the 11:30 meeting want to come to the 6 o'clock meeting, because, you know, you have folk that was like, okay, I want to see if they're going to talk about the same stuff. So it may still be packed. And we're hoping it's packed because that means there's community engagement around these efforts. So where do you fit into the plan in terms of the parks?
Yeah, so my name is Alex Saraparu. I'm with Concordia. We're a local architecture, planning, and engagement firm, and City Park brought us on to really expand their engagement efforts and within the city of New Orleans. And so we've been working with them to help with the Ideas Youth Committee, which started late in November. And then we've also been helping to facilitate and coordinate all of the local community meetings and pop-up engagement efforts across the city. So, yeah.
I'm excited about the investment in terms of planning that you guys have put into this. To have something being planned for 2 years, tell me that there's an intentionality there to make certain that you involve all of the key stakeholders. And I think, for me, that is what we're lacking on a lot of our fronts around the city. It's just the lack of engaging the right folk to make certain you have a vast idea of what is happening. So why does City Park need a master plan?
Well, we're actually required by state law to operate pursuant to a master plan, but it's more than that. A good plan for a park should guide investment for its future and ensure that it reflects the needs of the community, not just a few user groups or even one leader. The plan should reflect the commonalities of our community, not just be the vision of one person.
So is this going to be something that can also, like, maybe set a precedent for how the rest of the parks will follow suit? Because this is about City Park, right?
This is City Park's
So can
plan.
the other parks like mirror what you guys are doing? Because I am a firm believer in if it's not broke, don't fix it. Or if it's been done and it's been done well, replicate it. So is this something that can be replicated with the other parks around the city?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I would encourage other parks to do it. Again, we're looking to the future. We want to ensure that City Park is as vibrant 20 years from now as it is today. We want our kids and grandkids to be able to enjoy what we can enjoy, and a plan like this ensures that we are reflecting the needs of the community. So I would encourage every park to undergo a process like this. And again, I'll repeat, we're trying to get it right, not go fast.
That's what I was saying. That's where I was going. You're so smart. Because I mean, to plan something for 2 years, it takes it's an effort to be intentional about the outcome that you want. So where are we in the process? And what is the team's engagement approach?
So right now, we're, oddly enough, we've been working our community meetings around a metaphor we're called making gumbo. So everyone in the city knows what the process step-by-step to making gumbo is. It's an iterative process, and so we've really structured our meetings to follow that. So the first one, all of the community engagements that's been done, late last year, we've called that making groceries. And so we took all that input and really brought it into our first meeting, which is stirring the roux. And then our last meeting at the end of January was prepping the ingredients. And so between those two meetings, this third meeting is really bringing together a lot of the core intentions and a lot of like those placemaking ideas of the places that people love, all the individual places, all the little nooks and crannies of the city park that people really enjoy going to. So this next meeting in April will really allow people to talk about some of those ideas, see them on the map, and then talk about how they fit back with the core intentions. So, yeah.
Now listen, Alex wants me to believe that he knows how to make gumbo. Because that's what it sounds like, right? It sounds like he was literally just giving us the steps. So, you know how to make gumbo?
3 years straight. I've been nominated to the family.
I'm not even mad at it. There's something about a man that could cook. It's natural in New Orleans. I am not mad at it. So what
We asked Alex to wear a chef's hat during the meeting.
Listen, I mean, he was talking about it, and I don't think anywhere else in the world they call it making groceries. I went to Alabama for college, and I was like, I'm going to make groceries. It's like, you're going to do what? It's just so New Orleans.
Yeah.
You forget that not everywhere is functioning the way you function. So I think that is a dope thing to do, to liken it to making gumbo and the steps.
It helps with people who aren't super familiar.
When you make it. I want to say
good.
16
I
if
do
you know
both
what you're
types,
doing. So what has the expanded engagement looked like?
It has looked like adding, again, the first thing we identified in the engagement process at the beginning was that we weren't hearing from enough young people. Our survey results showed us that. So we wanted to be really intentional about creating a youth committee. And the youth committee met and has followed the same making gumbo metaphor and steps that the entire community is engaged in. And they've given us some really, really meaningful feedback. This is a park for their future, so we wanted to ensure that their voices were heard. We also added community fellows to our engagement. These are individuals who represent every council district in the city. They serve as plan ambassadors. They host pop-up opportunities in people's communities. So rather than just inviting people to City Park, we're going to people to ask them to give us their feedback. We've also met with park user groups, focus groups, and we added 3 community meetings to the entire plan.
So I know there's a meeting on April 9th, and you're going to do it in 2 sessions. You're going to have one at 11:30 with a presentation beginning at 12, and then your other one will be at 6 with a presentation starting at 6:30. But when are the next meetings? Do you have follow-up meetings to this meeting on April 9th?
We do. The next meeting after April 9th is June 25th, and that will be the Tasting the Gumbo meeting, which means if everything has gone as planned, community members should come and be able to see a plan that reflects what they've built over this process. So that is our last meeting, is June 25th, and hopefully what we hear from the community is that the plan reflects what they added to it.
So I heard you say you did the meeting in 2 parts because the first meeting you had, or one of the prior meetings, it was so packed. Where can folk go to register if they're interested in participating in the April 9th meeting?
Thank you for that, because we'd love for people to register. It really gives us an idea of how many
'cause
people
you
are
wanna know
coming.
who- yeah, you
We
wanna
want to
be
be able to plan.
Yeah.
And we do serve gumbo at all of these. So
Now hold up. Now
Yep.
see, you should have led with that.
You're right. You're right.
That should have started the conversation, because look at me. I'm like, wait, hold on. I just want wait. I might have to put this in my calendar.
Get there early.
That's right. Get there
You're
early.
supposed to leave with that one, Alex. but I think the whole idea and the concept is extremely dope, the way y'all are doing it.
Thank you.
And to offer the gumbo as a part of, I just, it's, you can tell y'all put some real thought into how this is going to look. But where can we go if we want to register to attend the meeting?
Yes, to the City Park website, neworleanscitypark.org. You can register for the meetings. You can also look at summaries of the meetings that have already been held. So if you're coming for the very first time, you can get a recap. If you're someone who has been to every meeting, you can see, again, the progress we've made. It's really important to the plan that we hear as many voices as possible. And I will compliment Concordia certainly on their efforts in engagement, bringing people together to sit, to eat gumbo, to talk together. It has been enlightening, and I think it's been educational for everyone who's participated.
So listen, what if I'm one of those people, as much as I would love to come and share a bowl of gumbo with you, and I just can't physically get to the meeting? Is there a way for me to still be engaged in the process?
Definitely. So I will start with the website. We have a comment section. You can also take a survey. We also, again, have pop-up opportunities around the city. I'll let Alex talk a little bit more about where they are, but we've been to libraries, festivals. We were at the New Orleans Book Fest over the weekend. We're going to host pop-up events in every council district.
And I heard the New Orleans, the Book Fest was well attended.
Yes.
I saw some of the media coverage, and I think, in part two, the guy that was added to the Signal chat, he was also there. So I think that also drew a lot of interest. And I wish I could have been there, because that's somebody I would have loved to engage in a conversation with. But tell us more about these pop-ups that are happening throughout the city to engage folk around the master plan for City Park.
Yeah, so as Rebecca mentioned, our community fellows are community members from all across the city that we brought on, and then we pay as part of the design team. And so whether or not it's formal pop-up events or them just going out, spreading the word and encouraging people to come to the meetings, we really encourage them to go into their networks, go to their community engagement members, and really all of the pop-up meetings really mirror what we're doing within the community meetings, the large-scale ones. So we'll have a large board, and then people will be talking about recently what we can improve, revive, or add within City Park. And so what we've been doing since late January, really through last week, is having those boards set up and then talking about all of those individual ideas that people really love and enjoy. So all of the pop-up events will really mirror, but just somewhat in an abbreviated way, what we'll be doing at the large-scale meetings. And if you do miss a meeting, we will record it, post it online, and then also have a link available for people to participate in the same activities that we'll be doing in the meeting. So
Now, when you say same activities, Alex, I'm eating gumbo at the pop-up. I'm just asking.
We're gonna give you time for your
I know I have
gumbo to
at the
digest.
meeting,
Yes.
but at the pop-up, are you giving us a little taste of gumbo? I'm just asking.
We
I'm
might
asking the question
hand
that
out
the
a
people-
recipe sheet, but we won't have any gumbo there, unfortunately.
I
But
was trying to ask the questions that the people want to know, because that's important. Y'all feeding people gumbo? You know, when you go to a lot of meetings, you might have some finger sandwiches, and but y'all giving out gumbo?
Gumbo.
Now, Miss Rebecca, are you putting wieners in the gumbo?
No.
This is a New Orleans question. Are you putting wieners in the gumbo?
No.
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 Miss Rebecca was like, wait, hold on. Alex, do we put wieners in the
I
gumbo?
checked before, I checked.
I usually taste the gumbo at every meeting. I don't recall that, so no.
But is there anything in the broader sense that you would want folk to know about the plan moving forward? So when you have the meeting on the 9th, and then you have the follow-up meeting in June?
June 25th.
On June 25th. What are the next steps? Have y'all planned that far ahead yet to know what our next steps are?
So the step after that is we will have a published master plan. Both the City Park Conservancy and the City Park Improvement Association boards will vote to approve the plan. And then we start designing. We identify projects that can be funded that were high priorities for the community. We start fundraising for those projects. And it's important for the community to remember that planning is phase one, design would be phase two. So if you see on a plan, let's say you see a new parking, a new playground. The plan isn't going to show you what the playground is made of yet. That comes in the design phase. So that's what will be next. And our engagement will continue through design. We do plan on coming back to the community as we design new things for the park to ensure we're getting it right.
Listen, City Park is gorgeous already. I think anything that adds beautification to it is just a bonus. It's a beautiful space. And I see here where you guys are hosting the pop-up activities in each council district. Are the council folk also involved in terms of feedback or the planning stages?
They have been involved, yes. We keep them updated. Council members come to the community meetings. So yes, they've been involved and have given us good feedback. They also promote the meetings on our behalf.
So is there any stakeholder out there, whether it be community folk, that you want to directly talk to and try to encourage them to participate in this process? Because we can do that right here on WBOK. I will definitely target these areas for you and talk about where these meetings are and encourage folk to get out and participate. So is there any stakeholder that you believe, because I heard you say you didn't have enough youth voices involved, and so there's targeted efforts to make certain that there are youth. Are there any other folk? Is it clergy, like churches? Anybody you want to specifically put the invitation out there for so they can join the meeting on April 9th?
Thank you for that. Yes, I think I would like to target people who either absolutely love City Park, use it, come all the time, but they're not part of a designated user group, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, people come to City Park every day and walk. Well, they may not be part of a tennis club or a running club or anything like that. So if you love and use City Park, we want to hear from you. As important is if you don't use City Park. I would love to know why. What are the barriers? What's keeping you from coming to City Park? Because it is where our community comes together. It is a treasure for the city. We're so lucky to have it. So if you feel like you're not welcome in City Park, I really would love to hear why.
And let me say this, my 20th class reunion from Edna Carr, I graduated from Edna Carr. Our picnic was at City Park. And we're not a part of any user group, but they just chose City Park. So I think just targeting the high schools who use the park for field trips and things of that nature, it would be important to understand their feedback. And I'm going to tell you, one of the barriers for West Bank folk is because it's on the East Bank.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's just literally what it is. It's just like, it feels very far, but it's a beautiful place. And that's why I asked the question about, will this be something that will set a precedent for how we beautify or build up our other parks? Because there should be a City Park-esque feel park on the West Bank as well, so that we can, benefit from that type of attraction. But City Park, to me, is like the epicenter of New Orleans. And so it deserves to be beautified. But I also think that talking to different groups, different schools, you'll get the feedback about why they're not engaging in it and what that will be. But we did have our 20th high school reunion picnic there.
I love that.
And it was wonderful.
We have a lot of reunions,
It
family
was
reunions,
wonderful.
high school reunions. Yes.
So I think that's a pocket of folk who should go to NewOrleansCityPark.org and register, like send someone from your alumni group to attend this April 9th meeting. And you have two sessions. You have one at 11:30. The presentation will begin at 12, and the other is at 6, and the presentation will begin at 6:30. And I'm excited about the two. I really am, because 11:30 might not work for most people, but most folk who work are off and free at the 6:30 hour. I think that's a good time.
Yes.
To get the people who have the very busy day.
Absolutely.
School pickup, school drop off, work. It's just 6:30 is a good.
And we understand
it's free time.
It's a commitment for people to come and engage. We're asking a lot of the community to help us plan for the park, so we want to make it as convenient and accessible as possible.
So what will you say to the community, to the youth of the community? Because, you look real youthful to me, to be able to get them to fully engage in the planning process for the master plan for City Park.
One thing I've learned as we've been going to high schools across the city is that I just realized a lot of these youth are post-Katrina youth, and a lot of them didn't really understand what City Park was like before Katrina. And so as I'm explaining what we're doing as part of this master plan and all of the research and context that went into it, I just want to encourage them to come and just be a part of it, explore City Park, really bring your friend and things like that, because there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of opportunity within City Park, 1,300 acres. And, as soon as we say that to youth, they're like, it's crazy. And we have this graphic where all of the main parks within the city can fit within City Park. And once they see that, they really get to understand like how much opportunity, how vast it is. So please come. Their feedback is always great. It's always just like wild, and we appreciate those ideas. And so we'll find a way to incorporate it into the plan.
Well, thank you, Alex. But it's Women's History Month, so Miss Rebecca's going to have the last word.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So what would you like to leave the people with?
I would leave you all with, first of all, thank you for having us. I
Always.
really appreciate being here. City Park is your park, and it deserves our investment. It deserves our stewardship. And we want to hear from the community and what they want, how they want their park to serve them. So I would encourage everyone to come to the meetings, or if you're not able to come to the meeting, find another way to send us your feedback. And just remember, again, this is your park. It's and we're going to invest in its future.
And the meeting is going to be April 9, 2025. The first session is 11:30. The second session is at 6 p.m. And if you cannot make the meeting, you can go to neworleanscitypark.org and enter in your feedback or any information that you would like the planning committee to have. But I want to thank our guest, Ms. Rebecca Dees. She is the City Park Conservancy President and Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Alex Saraparu, designer at Concordia, for being here with us this morning. So shout out to you and all of the work that you're doing to beautify this city. Thank you for being here this morning. Listen, this is WBOK 1230 AM. We're going to be right back after the break talking about all things state of this city, state of this state, state of this country, right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
Good Monday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. The man facing charges in a deadly dog attack is set to appear in court later today. Chad Bridges was arrested and charged with negligent homicide after 81-year-old Barbara Stewart was reportedly attacked and killed by Bridges' dog. Court records showed the same dog escaped through Bridges' fence and attacked a 15-year-old girl. The dog was surrendered to the LASPCA to be euthanized. Bridges' other two dogs were taken for a 10-day bite quarantine hold. A hearing is scheduled for today at 3 p.m. It was a shocking turnout over the weekend as voters went to the polls to vote on 4 amendments and local races. And in a surprising move, people overwhelmingly voted against all 4 constitutional amendments pushed by Governor Jeff Landry. The statewide election turnout was 21%, which is nearly double the voter turnout rate of 11% during the December 2024 election. Turnout was also higher in Democratic parishes. The only woman on death row in Louisiana is set to be in court this morning. Antoinette Frank, a former New Orleans police officer, is convicted of killing her partner, Officer Ronald Williams, and 2 restaurant owners during a robbery in New Orleans East back in 1995. Now, it's unclear what she will be in court for this morning, but according to Attorney General Liz Murrill, we know that an execution date could soon be scheduled for Frank. And it's the end of the road for LSU's women's basketball team as they fall to UCLA in the Elite Eight. The Bruins advanced to the women's Final Four for the first time in the program's history. LSU's Anissa Morrow overcame a broken nose injury in the game to finish with 15 points. She's also projected to be a top 10 pick in the upcoming WNBA draft. For head coach Kim Mulkey, it was the 13th time in her career that she led a team to the NCAA Elite Eight. I'm Daryl Forges. That's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
NOLA Public Schools is excited for the rest of this 24-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars attend today, achieve tomorrow.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. If you're just joining us, you missed a conversation with Ms. Rebecca Dietz, the City Park Conservancy President and Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Alex Saraparu, designer at Concordia, talking about the master plan for City Park. But I promised y'all that we jump right back into the conversation surrounding these 4 proposed constitutional amendments, and what does that mean for us as a voting base moving forward. Good morning, Ms. Leslie. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing, Dr. White?
I'm good. How are you?
As always. And I did want to join in the chorus, of voices of appreciation to every single voter who went out this Saturday, whether it was in Orleans Parish, one of our 64 parishes, or in the state of Louisiana. I want to thank everyone who went out to vote. I want to thank all of the grassroots organizations who helped to get the word out statewide. I want to thank all the members of the New Orleans Coalition, in particular, the New Orleans state and Senate representatives who helped to staff all of our, we had town halls, we had forums, we visited neighborhood associations, and no matter who called, they were there to help. So I want to thank them as well. And in particular, Dr. White, I want to thank you. You kept that conversation going. Every day you mentioned it. Every day you talked about it. Every day you would not let the voters and the members of your listening audience forget the importance of this election. So I want to personally, and on behalf of the Orleans Parish Democratic Executive Committee, thank you for the work that you do in the community, and hope that you can always be there to help us do what we try to do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Boy. I appreciate that.
You're quite welcome.
Have a blessed
Thank you.
one.
Bye-bye.
Listen, I'm going to continue to echo those sentiments because I saw something that was very it almost felt electric. Everywhere I went, there was a local or state elected official engaging and educating and encouraging us to exercise our duty to make certain that our voices were heard. And so I sent personal text messages to several members of our local or state bodies to thank them for what they've done. And I sent it to the folk who I saw, who I engaged with, who I moderated panels, and they were on the panel. I sent those messages out there. I don't have Mandy Landry's personal number, but I want to thank her as well because she was doing some activations as well on social media because that's where the people are. So any person, any organization, any coalition that work to protect our civil rights, because that's what this is all going to come down to, protect our humanity, protect the institutions and the Constitution. Thank you. Because this was a collective effort, a resounding collective effort to say no to all 4. And so for me, I also pay attention to the institutions that were supporting it. Because, see, that's how I help myself make decisions. If I know people feed poison to my community and I watch them support something, off the rip, I'm on the other side of it, investigating why they want this, right? I'm like, no, let's see what this is about. And the Pelican Institute is one of those entities. And the Pelican Institute, as you know, is a right-leaning think tank and vocal supporter of Amendment 2. They said on social media, it's never been more clear how hard the deeply entrenched status quo will fight against transformational reforms. It's disappointing that confusion won the day over a hopeful future for Louisiana. We owe it to our children, grandchildren, friends, and neighbors who've been driven out of state by bad policy decisions that derive from a broken state constitution to keep pushing forward. And notice, they're not even whispering. They're saying the quiet part out loud. This is an attack on the Constitution, just the same way it's an attack on the Constitution on a national level. These people want to rewrite the Constitution so that it benefits the kind of folk that they engage with in their personal spaces, that they go to the cigar bars with and talk about all the poor people over a French 75. These are the folk who are trying very hard to let their money and their power influence the way the entire state does business. And if that doesn't tell you something, because it tells me a lot, anytime I see an issue, I want to look at who's pushing it. And then I want to investigate the why behind the push. And that's how I determine what side of the aisle I'm going to be on, because I don't trust anything that tries to tell me. Then look at it. It's never been more clear how deeply entrenched status quo will fight against transformational reforms. What status quo are you talking about? Because there's a status quo across this country of wealthy folk not wanting to pay their fair share, not wanting to tax themselves. Because if you actually tax the wealthy, what you're supposed to be taxing them, you wouldn't have to keep fleecing poor people. That's my opinion. And I'm talking to the Pelican Institute. Since y'all want to lean to the right and be a think tank, think about that. Think about if you actually pressured the upper echelon of folk running around here enriching themselves on the backs of poor people. If you actually made them do what they're supposed to do, you wouldn't have to keep fleecing poor people or misinforming poor people or lying to poor people. Because you have to also remember a lot of the people who voted for this transformational reform, that's why they voted for the governor. Because that's the kind of jargon y'all were pushing, transformational reform. But ask yourself why those same people are pushing back against these 4 proposed constitutional amendments. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It was the fact that we had time to educate the voter populace. We had time to organize around a campaign to say no to all 4. We had time to make certain that we could combat or push back against the rhetoric that was coming from the governor's mansion, talking about this will be a permanent pay raise for teachers. I knew when you were pushing teachers to the forefront of that amendment that it wasn't necessarily about the teachers. You were using them to try to fleece poor people into thinking, oh, we need to give teachers more money. Those people work really hard. I'm a #1 advocate for that. I think our teachers should be paid their weight in diamonds and pearls. But we will not, no educator, and I said that right here on the show. I don't know one educator, not one, not a novice one, not a seasoned one, that will trade the infrastructure of K-12 for a $1,000 stipend or a $2,000 stipend, because that's what it was. It wasn't a pay raise. It was a stipend. And it definitely wasn't permanent. But when I watched the governor push the teachers to the forefront, making this about the teachers, I knew it was a sleight of hand. I knew it. I knew it. Even the teachers didn't fall for that. And I would like to say, Mr. Larry Carter, because I'm not going to ever let up off you, sir, the executive director of the Louisiana Federation for Teachers, I would love for you to call the station 504-582-9422 or call my producer, Naira Sanders, and set up a meeting where you can come here and talk to us about your stance on Amendment 2, because I still have yet to understand why the unionized groups, the groups put together to protect the interests of the teachers were supporting this. What did the governor give y'all? What did he promise you? That's what I want to know. I know what he promised 50 Cent. I know why 50 Cent did it. Why did you do it? Because, see, these are the kind of conversations we have to have so that we can see you coming the next time. We want to be able to name the thing that we name it. We got to see you coming. And I didn't see the Louisiana Teachers, the Federation of Teachers. I didn't see y'all supporting this. That's why it shocked me. It shocked me. We have to make it make sense. If you know that your duty is to protect teachers and do what is in the best interest of teachers, why would you get on board with this? Because to me, that sent a false message to the teacher saying that this is good. We need this. Teachers deserve a pay raise, and they absolutely do. But we're not going to blow up K-12 to give it to them, and we're not going to strip early education to give it to them. We will not do that. Because if we do that, then it makes the teachers' jobs harder. Imagine coming to second grade and you can't even phonetically sound out words, or you don't understand how to blend. The things you learn in Head Start, pre-K4, first grade. But if we blow up early childhood, then you're going to have third graders trying to figure out what sound the A and the E together makes, because they're two vowel sounds. Or if the H in the word is silent. What? No. I don't know a teacher worth their weight that's going to do that. Good morning, I'm Treese. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm okay. You know, I just had to call in this morning and as Leslie said, join the choir, because I did not originally even know they had an election until I was listening to WBOK. And when I tell you, every single day you was explaining them, telling people where to find them. And then once you started doing it, I started seeing, other people doing the same kind of work, and everybody worked together. But I think what they failed to realize is when they came for the teachers gonna do what they do best, which is teach.
Yes.
And so I do believe this was an amazing win that I think the populace needed this win. I feel like we needed this win when we tell everybody go out and vote, and then they got to see this win. And I really hope that this win builds on, and I believe it will, because a lot of people are excited about an amendment win. People that don't even vote are excited about an amendment win. So that tells us moving forward into this election, I hope we just continue to just keep educating people on the real deal and keep it about the issues and about real life, critical things that are going on for us, So I just appreciate the work you did, and I feel like this was a great win for all of us, and it was in part due to the determination and hard work you put forward to make sure that we understood that they was trying to get one in on us, and don't play in our face.
Don't play in our face. Thank you, Treese. I appreciate you.
All right.
Good morning, John. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Hey, John, are you there? I don't know. Listen, y'all. I appreciate. I appreciate all of the positive feedback, but I'm very, very, very serious about making certain that we continue to have this momentum moving forward. I'm intentional about uplifting every person who had a hand in making certain that this was the turnout and the results that we worked hard for. And whether you posted about it on social media, whether you text somebody and told them to go vote and to vote no, because on top of me doing it here on WBOK, I had to fill several phone calls, multiple phone calls. My mama, Ashanta, what are we voting for? What do I need to do, right? Because she knows she doesn't necessarily have to keep her ear to everything, but she know her daughter does. So she called and asked. I had a cousin call. She asked, Ashanta, what are we voting for? A lot of folk in Jefferson Parish, believe it or not, did not know that there was a council race on the ballot, and they're considering it a big upset because the two folk who made the runoff did not include the person that everybody assumed would make the runoff. And this race was between former Jefferson Parish Council member Ricky Tiplet, Jean Lafitte Mayor Timothy Kerner, and Democratic State Central Committee member Andrea Manuel. And the runoff will include the Jean Lafitte Mayor Timothy Kerner and the Democratic State Central Committee member Andrea Manuel. They will be headed to a runoff. Manuel won with 36.1% of the votes. Kerner won with 35.6% of the vote, and Simply won with 28.4% of the vote. The turnout was 31%. And so it it tells you that there is a collective movement happening. The person I actually voted for made the runoff, so I'm excited about that. But a lot of folk didn't even know that there was a council race and a millage on there. Folk just don't know what's happening. And I think that is a part of the broader disengagement of their civic responsibility. It's just that they don't know. They don't know what's on it. They don't know the importance of it. And they don't know if they go to vote what they're actually voting for. So we have to start making it plain for people. And that is why I use the Power Coalition every day when we talked about it, because they made it plain. You didn't have to figure out what it meant. They literally made it extremely plain and clear. So shout out to the Power Coalition. They told you what a yes vote meant, what a no vote meant. Shout out to Black Source Media, because even Think 504 made it plain. You can go to different platforms and get the information, and there was always a collective consensus around what was best for this state, and that was to vote no on all four. So I'm extremely proud of every person who did anything, whether you drove a person to vote, whether you text somebody, whether you posted on your social media, whether you talked about it in the coffee shop. There was some sort of influence on every front that engaged people to get to the polls. And shout out to New Orleans, to Orleans Parish. Y'all led the pack. And I keep wanting to tell people, so goes this city, so goes this state. So you set the tone whether you know it or not. What you do in New Orleans matters. That is why we have to protect this city at all costs. That is why when it's time to vote for your next mayor, you have to be just as engaged, if not more engaged, with the process. Investigate the platforms. Don't just vote because the names sound familiar. Don't just vote because you saw a nice video on social media. Because if you let the author put the book together, the author going to tell you all the good things about himself. You need to ask the questions that matter to you, to each and every candidate. And then you need to galvanize your neighborhood, your streets, your community, and encourage them to go to town halls, encourage them to watch hot seats, encourage them to listen to interviews. Because the more a person talks, the clearer the picture becomes as it relates to their leadership ability for a city that desperately needs unity, desperately on all fronts. And I believe this election, this past Saturday, lit the match to start an inferno of unity around this city. And we deserve it. Our kids deserve it. And I'm hoping that the energy around pushing back against these proposed constitutional amendments, specifically number 3, gives you a renewed interest into what is going on with our children. There is a school board race happening for the city of New Orleans and its children. The engagement that you showed for these amendments, I'm urging folk to pay attention, to ask the questions, to demand answers of your locally elected school board officials as to what is best and who is best to lead this parish and its children forward. We can no longer be asleep at the wheel when it comes to our babies and their education, because understand, education is the reason these amendments didn't pass, because folk galvanized to educate us, to inform us, to encourage us to do what is best for our children, our community, our people. And if we could do that, certainly we can lift our voices collectively and say, this is what we want for our kids. This is who we want for our kids. Because right now you only have 2 options. You have the interim, Dr. Fatima Fulmore, and you have the candidate that is being pushed by the Charter Industrial Complex. Because that's what I call it. Right? And that is Sharon Clark from Sophie B. Wright. And let's not pretend that we didn't know that this was coming, because the 74 put the article out on March the 6th telling us who the finalists were going to be. And that was 3 weeks prior to the decision of who the finalists were going to be. Y'all start paying attention. Start connecting the dots. And you don't even have to go find the dots. I gave them to you. Connect them. Connect them. And that's why you can't listen to folks talking about all of this big money being pushed to push an agenda. That's the way the game is being played, Governor. You know that, because that's what you were doing, using big money to push propaganda to tell us that this was about a teacher pay raise. That was not true. This was about you overhauling the text structure, trying to overhaul the Constitution. That's what you were trying to do. And the people in the great state of Louisiana say, not today. It said, get your hands off my community, get your hands off my children, and get your hands off my pocketbook. We're going to take a break, y'all, because we have to. We got to pay bills around here. But when we come back, we're going to jump into conversation, hopefully, with the founder and CEO, Telly Mandina, and Mary Babcock Foundation CEO Flozell Daniels, talking about the 3rd annual Crescent City Pitmasters, an exciting barbecue competition that blends New Orleans' rich culinary traditions with a powerful mission to combat food insecurity. And hopefully we could get our super producer, Naira Sanders, to be one of the judges. You know I'm going to push for it. Y'all stay tuned right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Heavy rain and storms expected for the first half of the day. We could see damaging winds, a chance for tornadoes, and heavy rain. After the severe threat is done, expect a much warmer afternoon with highs in the low 80s. Mostly dry in the afternoon, but an isolated shower may pop up. Lows in the 60s for tonight, and we're back into the 80s for Tuesday. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Are you passionate about community safety and police accountability? Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Get the facts and stay informed. We're breaking down complex issues, highlighting community voices, and holding people behind the badge accountable. Join us for an informative hour every Friday at noon on WBOK. Your city, your police, your show. The Monitor's Mic.
Welcome to The Community Scientist. I'm excited to bring you our quarterly review of the latest research. If you live or work in St. James, St. John's, St. Charles, Ascension, Calcasieu, Baton Rouge, or St. Bernard parishes, it's vital that you have access to clear, objective information about lead, hexavalent chromium, and cadmium, and how these substances impact your health and our natural environment. The Community Scientist is a service program of Rise St. James, supported by our dedicated TCS research team. To learn more, visit risestjames.org.
In recognition of Women's History Month, WBOK 1230 AM presents Her Story Spotlight, honoring extraordinary women whose achievements have redefined what's possible.
March is Women's History Month, a month dedicated to recognizing and celebrating the contributions of women to our society. This is Kimba White Dupree, sharing information about Dorothy May Taylor. Dorothy May de Lavalade Taylor was an educator and politician in New Orleans, the first African-American woman to be elected to serve in the Louisiana House of Representatives. From 1971 to 1980, she represented District 20, since renumbered in her native New Orleans. She had started her career as a teacher in the Head Start program, designed to benefit children in their early years. She was also active in civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s, gaining more resources for facilities for African Americans in the city. She worked in issues of healthcare, childcare, racial discrimination, and inhumane conditions in state prisons. As director of the Central City Neighborhood Health Clinic from 1980, she also worked to develop African American leaders among her staff and mentored a number of future politicians in the state. In 1984, she was appointed by Governor Edwin Edwards as head of state of the Department of Urban and Community Affairs, becoming the first African American woman to hold a cabinet position. Taylor began her career in public service in the Parent-Teacher Association, demanding equal supplies and funding for African American children from the Orleans Parish School Board. She was vital to the desegregation of New Orleans Recreation Department, as well as other voter registrations. Ms. Taylor's most memorable contribution was to have authored an ordinance insisting that all Mardi Gras crews stop discriminating and institute an open admission policy for anyone seeking to join their organizations if they chose to use the city services to hold their parades. The reaction to this ordinance was swift and downright vicious. Old Line crews threatened to end Mardi Gras by refusing to parade if this ordinance was enforced. Ms. Taylor held public hearings that forced the club members to answer questions that they didn't even ask in private. Dorothy Mae Taylor, a woman of influence, a woman of power, a woman in history.
WBOK 1230 AM celebrates Women's History Month and the visionaries and innovators who broke barriers and paved the way for generations to come.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Naira Sanders. He's also in the building holding it all together for me. If you missed our show today, we were talking about the beatdown at the polls. That's what they call it. And Amanda Landry said he was destroyed. She just put one word, destroyed, at the polls. We were talking about the shutdown of those 4 proposed constitutional amendments that the governor just knew. He just knew. He had it in his pocket. Like he was anticipating a 12% turnout. He even, acquiesced and said maybe 18%, but it was more than that. And Louisiana showed up. New Orleans showed up. New Orleans led the pack. Do you know who you are, New Orleans? Do you know who you are? They know. That's why there's an all-out assault on New Orleans. And if they know your value, it's time you wake up and know your value. You are very much that girl, New Orleans. I hope you know it. And I hope you stand up and show them every single time that we are not to be played with in this city. That's the New Orleans I remember. That's the New Orleans that I know. She a bad girl. I know her personally. She raised me. I know that lady. So let me tell y'all, there's a community meeting happening tonight. It's the monthly town hall meeting put on by NOF, the New Orleans United Front. It is happening today, March 31st. It starts at 5, ends at 7. It is taking place at Cafe Istanbul, 2372 St. Claude Avenue in the Healing Center. I will be your moderator, and my guest will be Darren Lombard from the Orleans Parish Clerk of Criminal Court. We'll be talking about voting, plans, policies, and employment opportunities. Refreshments will be served. And if you have any further questions and you need some clarity, you can reach out to Miss Alicia Plummer, 504-458-5809. But that is tonight, 5 p.m., Cafe Istanbul. Come engage in the conversation with your Orleans Parish Clerk of Criminal Courts, Darren Lombard. It is the last day of Women's History Month, and I want to shout out all the trailblazing, trend-setting women of New Orleans, the city of New Orleans, all the trailblazing, trend-setting women of the Democratic Party right here in the city of New Orleans, because, listen, it is because of all of the efforts put on by all of the organizations, and there's so many to name, and so forgive me, blame my head and not my heart if I did not particularly name your organization. But I know this was a collective effort. This was a coalition. This was unity, unlike we've seen in a very long time. And if it could happen once, it can happen again. And what we need to do away with is this idea that there is apathy so strong that we cannot turn the tide. This election showed us that you combat apathy with education. You teach and educate and empower the people about what their vote means specific to them and their livelihoods, their humanity, their everyday way of living. And if you tired of just trying to survive in a city, you're going to protect it. You're gonna make certain that all of the systems work so that you could thrive in your city. And I'm going to continue to say that education is the magic bullet that everybody keep trying to duck and dodge. It's not incarceration. We're not going to incarcerate ourselves out of crime. We can educate ourselves out of crime, though. We're not going to incarcerate ourselves into a better a way of living in terms of what we're being paid. You can educate your way out of that, though. Because we do know crime sometimes, oftentimes, directly correlate to a lack of opportunity, lack of access. And that is system failure. That's not a people failure, not the people who are suffering under the system. That's the system failure. And more often than not, the system is being controlled by wealthy white folk who've been in politics 30, 40 years, who don't want to let go of the mantle. They don't want to remove themselves from the helm. And so they're fighting for the survival of white supremacy because that is the only place that they feel validated. And they don't want to feel invalidated. They don't want to feel minimized. They don't want to feel ostracized or marginalized. They want to keep pushing that on you so that they can have this false bravado about their supremacy. And that was that arrogance and that cockiness that made your governor talk about the 12% on national TV with the Speaker of the House, who's also from the great state of Louisiana. And might I add, the proposed constitutional amendments didn't pass in his parish either. Maybe the folk didn't like that. Maybe the folks are waking up saying, you fed me this, but it don't taste good anymore. Kind of like the people who voted for Trump. You fed me that propaganda, but it no longer tastes good. You told me you're going to lower the price of eggs on day 1, and then you told me on day 12 to buy me a chicken coop. You really can't make this up. Because you have to ask yourself why. Connect the dots. You don't got to go find the dots. I gave them to you. Connect them. Why is Louisiana the epicenter for detentions? Why? What makes Louisiana so special? That's because our governor has a nice little bromance going on with the president. I think he won't be in his cabinet. And since he didn't make it to his cabinet, he at least won't be in the neighborhood. He won't visit his street. You know what? I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of our elected officials. And that's all I kept telling our elected officials. Yeah, I'm hard on you, but that's because I need you to fight. I need you to stand up and push back. There's a time for niceties. And there's a time to put your gloves on and fight back. There's a time for political correctness. And there's just a time to be low. It's a time. That's why we had Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. You understand? Because there are different ways to skin a cat. But you'll never get anywhere if you're stagnant, if you're content, and if you're docile. And what you told me this Saturday is we are neither of those things. So shout out to the city of New Orleans. Shout out to the parish of Orleans. Y'all some bad people. And I love it here. Hey, John, I got your back. Look, you got about 30, 45 seconds.
Okay.
What you see?
Yeah, you're right, baby. We even the people in his own parish didn't like what he did.
Yeah.
You know, they catching on to it. And it's a situation, like I always say, a lot of people realizing we ain't white enough for this.
We ain't wealthy enough either.
Well, that's when I say ain't white enough, that's what I mean. That always remember that. When I say you ain't white enough for this, that means wealthy. But what's going to have to happen to, just like he tried to do the sleight of hand on the folks, what I think too is happening in this country, even a lot of white people are realizing, we don't like all this just mean-spirited, things that are just done out of just pure meanness. And believe it or not, a lot of whites have a conscience too. All over here, all over the South and places, they all ain't that way, frothing at the mouth. And they start not to like this just pure meanness toward people. And you're going to see more and more of a pushback. And I think the Democrats, probably in the midterm, are going to claw a few seats back. I think they're going to get a few of them back. Not enough to really turn it around, but enough to create enough irritant to this man for some of the things he's doing. And us as black folks are going to have to learn, too, when we're dealing with Democrats, that the sleight of hand, because when they write policies for other groups of people, they never put in others in there.
Yeah.
When it's written for that group, it's for them.
Yep.
Like with I was proud of what Troy Carter did for the farmers, but it still had others in there.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of that term. And let me tell you something else, and I'm going to run. This Mexican lady that sued Google for millions of dollars because of discrimination against blacks and all different other ethnic groups. But guess what? In the lawsuit, or they paid them out, they didn't include blacks in that. It was Mexicans, Latinos, Pacific Islanders, Asians, Native Alaskans, Native Americans, but no blacks in that suit. This is why we have to get away from this idea of this coalition. You know, black people are like my ancestor, John, said that we have no enemies. I mean, we have no friends. You know, all of these other people really are not truly our allies. We have no allies but ourselves and the Most High God. That's the only allies we have. Because why did we get excluded from the discrimination? Because we were discriminated to at Google, but they didn't include us in it. The lady didn't include us in it.
Well, John,
and that's another example of why you can't go out there caping for these people. I won't say the other thing, what men say about carrying such and such, but I'm going to say what the old people say, and I'm gone. Every tub got to rest on its own bottom.
Come on.
Talk to you later. Be blessed.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Listen, it's a time. We had a time today. I love y'all for it. Thank you to all of the callers. Thank you to our guests who appeared on the show today. But I'm going to leave you with this because I think it's important for you to hear it again. The governor of the great state of Louisiana say, although we are disappointed in tonight's results, we do not see this as a failure. We realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that is conditioned for failure. Y'all need to remember that each and every time there's an election going on, remember those words. They should be burned in your brain. And you should send the same resounding message you sent on Saturday. Not my city, not my community, not its children. Y'all stay tuned up next for the Front Porch with Grannon and Kimber. But as far as the Good Morning Show and Dr. Wyatt, I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. This is WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about all day long. New Orleans, you're a bad